The Michigan Wedding Podcast is brought to you by RDS Films and Michael's Entertainment. Well, welcome to the Michigan Wedding Podcast, designed for engaged couples curious to learn more about the people that make up the Michigan wedding industry at a deeper and more personal level. I'm your host, Seth Michaels, and I'm really excited to be hanging out with, of course, the Michigan Wedding Podcast team, Rocky and Richard.
Hey, guys. What's happening?
But even more exciting, no offense, guys, is we've got Trisha Strickland here, the Michigan wedding painter herself.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So all the way out here from the Brighton area. So
yes, Pinckney.
Pinckney,
Is
okay.
technically what it is. I tell people that I live 5 minutes north of hell. It's really good. It's fun jokes. We have a lot of fun with that. So
I did some horseback riding in Hell, Michigan one time.
Okay, that's about right. Eat some ice cream at Screams.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really small and touristy, and it's cute, and the people there are super friendly. So it's just, we have a lot of fun with it. But
Oh yeah.
I'm right up the road from there.
Well, thanks for making the drive out here, and we're going to jump into a conversation with Trisha here in a little bit and learn all about how she became the artist that she is today.
Yep.
But first, let's move into our tips of the day. Rocky, what you got for us for video?
Yep. Hey, guys out there. It's Rocky with RDS Films, RDS_films on Instagram, RDSfilms.com. Super excited to be a part of the podcast here. My tip of the day for everybody is, this is a video tip, is to think about doing a letter reading and personalized vows for your ceremony. The reason why I say that is because with video, if we have a personalized vow or a letter exchange beforehand, we can take that audio and drop it on top of your film and create this very cinematic effect with your voice and your fiance's voice. And I just think it adds so much value to your wedding film. So I think that's something to think about. Say you're just doing your normal vows and your ring exchange. Do that letter exchange before the ceremony, and then have your videographer film it, and then your videographer can edit it together. And I think it looks really nice, and it adds this cool cinematic piece for your day. So that's my wedding video tip of the day for you guys.
Thanks, Rocky.
I love it. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Richard. What's your tip of the day, buddy? Good to see you.
You too, man. So today's tip of the day is about the grand introduction. So ask your DJ what their plan is essentially for the grand introduction. So you can do a few things here. You could play one song for your wedding party and for yourself as you guys are welcome to the room. Or you could do what we like to do is have two separate songs. So a song for your wedding party, then a song for the couple. The reason we suggest this is just because you can come in at the crescendo of your song, basically. So as we're announcing you, so Mr. and Mrs. Seth and Casey Michaels, as you guys come in the room, the high point of your songs is also at that point. So that way the moment is just super magical and super, I guess, surreal for you and for all your friends and family.
That's a great tip. Yes,
thank you.
I agree.
So today's tip of the day, ask your DJ what their plan is for your grand introduction.
I love it.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Rocky.
When you, a lot of times, we met at the Colony Club, I believe, or was it the Inn at St. John's?
The first time we met was the Colony Club.
The Colony Club.
Yes.
And we've actually done a couple jobs at the Colony Club together.
Yep, and I think at the Inn of St. John's too.
Yeah, they like you there, I guess.
Yeah.
And but they usually have you set up sort of like right next to the DJ or kind of adjacent to him or the band.
That's actually my choice because the DJ and the band always has the best view of the couple and the dance floor.
Best seat in the house.
It's true. And rather than kick you out of your spot, I figured I'll just share it.
It's nice of you.
Yeah, always trying to be polite and look out for others. But so I just make sure that I can get close enough without getting too close to the speaker. Because if I get too close to the speaker, it'll vibrate my canvas like a drum.
Ooh.
And sometimes it makes for exciting brush strokes, but other times it's just really kind of difficult to work around. So I got to find that sweet spot of good view and not too close to the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
And before we get too far into this, for people listening, because I know people are watching, they can see your painting, but explain to the listeners a little bit about what you do, who you are, just so we have a starting platform, and then we kind of go into it.
Yes, sorry. We didn't mean to get ahead of ourselves here. I am a live event artist, and I started back in 2012. Mm-hmm. I started by painting like one of my friends' weddings after I saw the idea on a show one evening. and just fell in love with it. It was like lightning struck me. I was like, I have to do this. And so I called her up and I said, hey, let me try this. Let me try to paint your wedding. If it doesn't go well, I'll buy you some cups. We'll call it good. And it went so well that people were asking me for my card that day. And I just decided I was going to make it mine. And that's what I did. So now I'm painting live at probably close to between 80 and 100 weddings a year. I've traveled various places throughout the country. I have more trips coming up next year, hopefully, if things calm down. I'll be heading to like Long Island and Arizona, and yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I really enjoy it, and I'm really thankful to be able to have fallen into this where that's something that just fits me so well. Yeah. So yeah,
that's well said. And in this painting you're looking at behind Trisha here is something that she created while it was happening. So
yes,
and that's they set her up next to the best seat in the house, and
that one I had a whole corner just for myself.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because of restrictions, I had lots of space.
Oh, because this was during the
yes,
so this is recent then.
Yeah, yep. Oh. And the beauty about this is I can move tables and add tables all I want. So like I can crowd things together better, and if something's sparse, and floral arrangements can kind of get more.
I love the detail.
Boisterous.
I love the detail with this photo, though. Like the flow of his jacket as he's spinning her, the flow of her dress. How long does it take you?
I was there probably about 5 hours, but then I spent a little time on it at home as well. I've been trying to do that more often, as hard as it is to do anything at home.
Yeah.
I do love to be able to really dig into the dress details and the florals a little bit more in the tablecloths, because you'll see a lot of like metallic sheens and sequins, and I've tried to incorporate that textural effect into my paintings. So that's something that's easier to do at home and where I can really analyze things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you do a great job.
Thank you.
There's no one that does it what you do, and there might be out there. I just haven't personally met them. So
it's becoming a hotter trend. When I first started, there was nobody in Michigan I could find doing it. Hence why I just said Michigan wedding painter. That way, when people looked me up, they could figure out how close they are to me and where I'm at and everything. I found that was a challenge with a lot of event artists, is that like, where are you? So I was like, hey, Michigan, there you go,
yeah.
Michigan wedding painter.
Hey, Michigan wedding podcast. It's there.
See, it works, right? It's like simple. It's easy to find. You know where you're at. But since then, it's really picked up in other states, especially down south. It's a really hot thing. But around here, it's still kind of slim and hard to find people. And I've just been the main person in the game right now.
Yeah.
So.
And today, obviously, you're doing as much work as you're able to really handle. I mean, you're having to say no to a lot of dates.
Yes.
But it hasn't always been like this, right? I mean, you've been in the painting game way before you got into weddings.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been a working artist for a long time.
So let's start at the very beginning. How did you first get experienced with painting and start to realize your talents?
Well, I was one of those kids that just was good at it without even realizing it. I specifically remember my older brother accusing my mom of drawing one of my drawings when he came home from school one day. It was like, oh, this is really good, Mom. And she's like, I didn't draw that. Your sister did. And it's one of my family's favorite stories to tell about, realizing my talents as a child.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember that happening. So that's how young I was.
Wow.
And then as I got older, it was just like, everything I did, every birthday was art supplies, every Christmas was art supplies, My dad sat me down one day and showed me how to just paint a really simple little beach scene, and I was just hooked on painting things.
So you came from a fairly artistic family.
They're creative. They're very and adventurous. They are, really fun, hardworking people. We've had some rough times as a family and just as individuals, but we've come around now to where my older brother, he owns his own marine business down south. My younger brother is starting like a tree farm.
Wow.
We're very, very entrepreneurial type people, and cool. Really energetic and outgoing. So,
how did those challenges that you guys had to go through? Do you think led to? How did that lead to your entrepreneurialism? Do you think?
Well, personally, growing up, like my parents split up when I was about 9. And so they had been married for a pretty significant amount of time. And then once they divorced, it's kind of like, and I know a lot of children divorced understand this, they're trying to reestablish themselves with relationships, professionally, just socially. And you kind of are left up to your own devices, we'll say. And especially in the late 80s, early 90s, when latchkey kids were a thing and we were just kind of on our own. It was, there was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of moving from house to house, just trying to keep from getting evicted at one place and rolling into another, from efficiency apartment to trailer park to, just wherever you can get in.
Yeah.
Friends and family's couches. And so there was quite a few years there where it was really, really rough. And that kind of sparked in me realizing that my lot in life is not going to be the traditional, finish high school, go to college, go off into some career. I'm going to have to figure it out.
Yep.
And so art for me not only helped me figure out ways, I can make money doing something I'm just normally good at, but it was very therapeutic for me. It kept me grounded through a lot of years when I wasn't as grounded as most, but but it did keep me grounded. It did give me something to focus on and really treasure during the times where I just really didn't feel like I was valued or worth much. So
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
When you talk about, you mentioned that you art was something that you could find therapy in, and it's also something you could make money at. And it sounds like you were going through, one of the challenges was financial struggles as a young kid.
Yes.
So how did, I guess, you use art to, like, what's the first thing you ever sold as an artist?
So, I was about 10 when a friend of my dad's hired me to do like these little event posters for something for their work. And, $50 to a 10-year-old, that was like, what? Sure,
Yeah.
heck yeah, I'll do this. I'll do whatever you want. And so I did that. But then I remember there were other times, like in my early teens, we lived in a really small town, and I lived with my rambunctious cousin, who we would probably get in more trouble than we should have. But he always took the rap first. But we would like go up to the little tiny town bar and like sell little drawings to old men on napkins, and we would like.
It's amazing.
We would make little bets, just funny
hustler, man.
We were. It was terrible. Like I wouldn't let my kids hang out with me.
Like, oh, that's the girl that sells art on napkins.
It's at that point where like we would go in and be like, oh hey, she can write backwards, and they'd be like, oh no she can't. Bet you $5. And so yeah, I would do that little type of stuff, and we'd hustle ourselves up some snack money and go up to the other little convenience store and buy chips and whatever else we could, and that was just how we rolled.
Wow. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes, absolutely.
You had to find a way, and you weren't a starving artist. You were an artist that made money.
Yeah.
Even at 10 years old.
I wasn't starving. No, thank you. I don't like being hungry.
You worked too hard for that. And I love that, because that is really that's the American dream. That's the rags to riches. That's the story. We were always brought up in social studies learning, like, we're in a country where you can do what you want. And I love that. I love hearing that stories like that. It gets me a little emotional. It's heartwarming,
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, I didn't even appreciate it as much as I did the opportunities I could have had with it until I was much older. But, like I just was a really bad student in art class. My friends, they had parents, they had like an allowance. We're like, what is this? So you just get money for chores? Like, wow, that's amazing.
Whoa.
And so for me, it was like, no, I had to, whatever I needed, I had to work up some money for and figure out a way. And there was no fallback of, grandma and grandpa. And it was me, and there was no choice and there was no option. So you need to make it happen.
So self-reliance became a big part of who you became.
Yes,
early on.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's an inspiring story.
It really is.
So, so you go from drawing pictures on napkins to doing posters and for company events, like local small company events. So what was kind of the next, what were some of the gradual steps from there?
Oh, geez. I've designed tattoos. I've did like wall murals. I've done
Wall murals for
churches,
Oh.
actually. Yeah. In my early 20s, I turned my life over to Christ fully and got myself, thank you, and got myself kind of, right spiritually. And that positioned me in a spot where the pastors were like, oh, hey, she's really good. Let's have her paint pictures on the walls. And I was like, sure, okay, this is perfect. And so I did that. And I also did some live sermon paintings for my
Now
pastor friends.
that's very correlative
Yes.
with, if that's a word, correlative, with what you are doing today.
That was a very important precursor.
Yeah.
Yes, because
It's a live experience of, it's not just art in your room somewhere.
Right. And realizing how naturally that came for me was something that when I saw the idea of painting weddings was like, I know I can do this because this
Yeah.
is something I've done before, and it was really smooth and really easy and really natural for me. So that kind of gave me the courage to just jump right into it the way I did. So
Wow.
yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
And was that like a regular gig you did at churches, drawing the sermon?
I had done it a few times, and it wasn't something I had done consistently. Once I met my husband, and once we got married, we ended up with our first, pretty quick, we call it a honeymoon baby. And we were both working like security jobs at the time, and it was sufficient. We had insurance, and it kind of paid the bills, but not
Right.
really. And then pretty promptly after our second one came, and we were like, wow, we didn't realize we were going to get so abundantly blessed that quick, but we'll work it out.
Be fruitful and multiply, right?
Yeah, yes. Wow, yeah. So
And then it kept on going from there, right?
it kept on going. Yeah, it was just like, oh my goodness, okay.
So you end up having 5 kids
yes,
over
we
the
have
course
5 kids.
over the course of 6 years. I think you remember.
Yeah, it's 8 years.
8 years.
6
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
So that kind of took your art a little bit.
It got put on the back burner just a
right.
little, yeah, because at one point I had 3 of 3 different ages in diapers, and
A lot of work.
It was a lot of work. We had this giant triple stroller. It looked like a school bus. I remember we went to the parade in Detroit when Obama got into office, it was the second time he was running. And my husband was pushing that triple stroller through the streets, and people were just looking at us like we were crazy, and we're like, yay,
Oh, boy.
so. But yeah, the triple stroller is a fun story. We're just like, oh my goodness, so many babies. And that was before we had 2 more. So, I'm like,
Populating the world, it's a good thing. It's
oh, they're so great, though. I love my kids. They're so much
Yeah.
fun. It's the most beautiful chaos at my house.
Yeah.
Just all the time. There's always something going on. There's always action and noise, and it's a fun time. It's a messy time, but it's
Yeah.
a fun time.
But after you got them through their diapers phase
Yes.
and some of the other tough stuff, you were able to that was when relatively late in your career, was this what 15 years ago, 10 years ago, or
12 years ago.
12 years ago? That's when you had the idea. You
Or no,
were-
10 years ago. Yeah, for weddings.
Right. You
Yeah.
had saw a reality TV show, right? Or
Yeah, just one of those wedding shows that are on, at 2 a.m. when you're trying to have your mom cup of tea with
Yeah.
no one else talking to you.
and there was a wedding painter on the show.
Yes.
And that's when you realized that was a thing.
Oh, not only did I realize it was a thing, like it was my thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was just I remember my jaw dropping and just being like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
What a beautiful feeling to have, right?
Oh, my
your
goodness.
body just resonating with, you're like,
Exactly. And that's how
How do you
felt.
say it?
It's
I don't know.
Yes. It like bubbled off my tongue. I'm going to be a wedding painter.
yeah.
And I remember at the time I talked to my mom and she was like, a what? And there's so many people.
yeah.
God,
People don't, like, what is that?
what is Trish up to now? She's so weird. So I ended up getting a hold of, I had a Facebook page just for general art stuff, and I kind of transferred that over and put a shout out and said, hey, if anybody's willing to let me come crash your wedding, I'm going to do a couple freebies this year to, make sure I can have something in my portfolio to show people.
Yeah.
And, quickly a few people
Right.
volunteered themselves.
For sure.
Thankfully. And
I would. I'd be like, heck yeah, free painter.
Of course.
Like,
right. Yeah,
yes.
exactly. And I wasn't going to be doing anything else that weekend. So it
Shoot,
was
put it on a napkin. I'm cool with it. If it's free,
Right. No big deal. Whatever. And by the second wedding that I was doing for that promotion, we'll say, I had somebody already hire me. So it was.
It didn't take long.
It didn't take long at all. Yeah, I was really.
People saw your talent, and that spoke for itself. Really.
And I just needed to get 1 or 2 weddings up on my site to make sure they know what they're getting themselves into, and that I'm not just bluffing.
Yeah.
I really know how to do this. I can, but yeah. So, and from that first wedding where someone hired me, there was a bridesmaid and a sister, and then the next season I had like 15 weddings, and then 30, and then 90.
There was one part of the story that I thought was really cool. Your brother was in radio, right?
Yes.
So before you really took off,
he still is, and he was very supportive. And he saw
what's your brother's name?
His name is Josh Strickland, and you've probably heard him maybe on like Smile FM at one point, and 97.5 out of Lansing.
Rings a bell.
Right now he's on 103 The Fox, I believe.
It was shortly after you had done your first wedding that you and him had a conversation, right?
Yes. He just thought it was really cool what I was trying to do, and put a shout out for me on his station and said, hey, this is my sister-in-law, and she's trying to do this. Can you guys help her out? And they sure did.
And you did. Wasn't it like a giveaway? It was like 5 free weddings.
Yep, that's what I.
And they had to compete for it.
I figured I would just do. There was really no competition. It was just like I just picked the ones that were closest to me.
Oh, yeah, they had.
I'm like, just throw your name in the bucket, and whoever I can do and get done this year, we'll do.
So you looked at the addresses and said, that sounds cool.
Like, that's perfect. Yes, we'll work it out. And so yeah, it was a pretty easy transition for me. And that's actually something that live event painters currently struggle with, is just trying to get
started.
Yeah, into one wedding, and unless your friends are getting married or something, it's hard to like offer to crash people's weddings.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like when you sold your first job? Because I know you gave a few away, and then you started selling them. And I know my feeling when I started selling jobs for the first time. Do you remember that moment?
Yes, where you're kind of shocked.
And you're like, oh my gosh, they called me randomly. They found me. They're about to give me money.
Yes, it was totally organic too.
Yeah.
It wasn't based off of the other paintings the other weddings I had done. It was completely organic. She found me on my Facebook page and just got a hold of me. And I was like, and then you don't realize all the things you didn't think about. Like, oh, my pricing. Oh,
yeah.
Do I need a contract? Oh my gosh, I need a contract.
Right.
Yep. And then, there's so many things that go into it. But the really sweet thing, I remember early on, one of those very, very early paintings, somebody's grandmother came up to me and she said, oh my gosh, honey, you are a real artist. And I remember wanting to cry. I was like, oh. She told me she was proud of me. And like, oh man, I was, like even thinking about it now, I'm like, oh, this is the sweetest thing. And she sat me down and said, here's what you need to do. You go up to the local clerk's office, get yourself a DBA, do this, do that. And I was like, you are an angel. Like, whose grandma is this? I need to borrow her. So, yeah, I would go visit her on Sundays if I knew where she was. It's like,
well, if you're listening out there,
yes.
Grandma.
That's awesome.
You made a difference in someone's life.
People's grandmas are the best part of weddings, I swear.
Yep.
Wow, that's incredible. And so, Bob Ross, how do you feel about him?
Yes, he was my Jesus before Jesus. Because he was the consistent, like I said, art is therapy, and it wasn't his art that made him awesome. I mean, it was fun, that he could just like pop out trees out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, that didn't even look like that 5 seconds ago.
Happy little tree.
It was his verbiage and how he spoke and how he talked you through the process with such a soothing manner and just so full of encouragement. And I remember that just being so helpful for me, someone who didn't really have the the access to art classes and things that I needed, and then was probably a nervous child anyways, to be able to see someone like that just, handle something the way he did and so calmly within 45 minutes, an hour. It really kind of gave me the impression that, this can be done, and it doesn't have to be difficult, and it doesn't have to be stressful. So. And
what's even crazier about that is I think they recorded multiple shows in a day, right? So he was that calm over and over again in one day of filming, which I think is impressive. You're in a studio for 8 hours, and then each episode he's just so relaxed, dialed in. I think that's amazing.
Wasn't he like a military instructor before?
Yeah. Yes.
Back in the day?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
A drill instructor.
Yeah.
And his job was to be really mean all the time.
To yell at people. I know.
Maggot,
Could you imagine Bob Ross in that? Oh my gosh, we have this.
It would be interesting to see, though.
Yeah, exactly. He has this cult following now, but I loved Bob Ross before everyone else did.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. Hey, let it be known. Right.
And it's funny though because he's kind of this in the art world. He doesn't get as much respect. There's a lot of people that are like,
weird to me.
So bizarre. They're like, oh, he's like this, basically kind of a hack. He didn't invent wet-on-wet painting, and he didn't do this, and he didn't. And it's like,
I don't care what he invented. The guy that invented it didn't talk like him.
We're not concerned with that. People, they often don't buy the art for the art. They buy the art for the idea.
Right.
And he was selling the idea. So
he made it. I know me and my fiance and I, a few years back, we had put a bunch of activities on popsicle sticks, put them in a car in a jar, and then every day, once a week or whatever, we'd pull one out and do the thing that we had written in that creative moment of writing those. And one of them was do Bob Ross paintings. So actually, this easel here.
Oh, okay.
I got it for Bob Ross painting.
I
with
was
Casey.
really impressed when I saw it when I walked in. I was like, "Oh, look at Seth! He has the easel already."
I have another one just like it because she had one and I had one. I wish I would have brought her. I don't want to. She can't do. She's great painting. She does different. It's amazing what she painted compared to what I painted. Let's just say that. Mine is like, wait, is that a tree?
There was a first grade drawing?
Yeah, and then maybe. And then you look at hers, and it actually looks kind of like Bob Ross's painting.
Okay.
So she's pretty artistic. She's more kind of like just does it for fun and jumps from one thing to the next. But she's awesome. And
do you and your husband ever just go to Painting with a Twist and just kick everybody's butt?
No.
Gotcha.
I went one night and definitely went way off the path of what they were instructing. But I tried to be cool.
Yep.
And
yeah,
I was out with the local mom group because that's what you do when you have a bunch of kids. You hang out with mom groups. And so it was fun. It was like But yeah, it was kind of odd for me
because you're better than the instructor.
Well, I don't know. They have to kind of down instruct to make it easy for everyone. So I don't know if I'm better, but I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not really it doesn't have the same therapeutic night out effect that it does other people who don't normally do
sure.
it. So
yeah,
I've heard you say before that when you're painting for a couple, you're not just thinking about that day, you're actually thinking 100 years from now.
Yes.
Tell me more about what you mean by that.
Well, when you're an artist, it's kind of beat into you pretty early on that people are going to be judging your work for generations. And, still to this day, I mean, look at Da Vinci, we look at his Mona Lisa, and people travel the whole world to go see it. And so, you think about that stuff in a different light. And with things like a wedding painting, it's so intimate to a family. And for someone like I check into my genealogy, and as much as I can, we're kind of mutts, and I got a lot of dead ends there. But from what I know, it's really cool when you get a hold of one of your great-grandparents' pictures or photos or just any heirloom type.
It's a relic. It's exciting.
And you analyze them, and you're like, oh, do they look like me? And what was their life like? And I like to think of the paintings as something kind of a hybrid of that photo moment and the emotional value of being there. So that to me the benefit of being there is being able to capture the whole emotional journey, I guess. The atmosphere kind of bleeds into the painting, and even like if the music is bouncing my canvas and those brush strokes get caught in there, that only adds character, right?
Yeah, it's like, I remember what song. I remember the song you could actually see the song if you look close enough.
I
that
did
brushstroke or whatever.
I did a slow motion video, and this it was funny. It was when everyone was like at the top of the party part of the night, and it was turned down for what? And when that bass dropped, it was just like, and my my brush was like making dots all the way down the backs of someone's chair. And I'm like, that's part of the fun. That really is, because they might see those brush strokes later and be like, this doesn't even make sense. But looking at the full painting, it does make sense, and it just adds to the motion and the movement and the fun of it.
That's beautiful.
So that's something that I think about their grandkids or their great grandkids being like, showing their friends, this is my grandma and grandpa, and like this person was there at the wedding, and I just like get goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because that's something that I think will be really cool, and I'm very thankful to be a part of it. So
yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's awesome.
I think what's also really cool about what you do is at the wedding, you start out with a blank canvas, right? And then pretty much.
Mostly, yeah.
And then by the end of it, you're done. So I'll check in with you throughout the night, and you'll just have, progress. And by the end of it, you see this whole thing done. And to me, that's entertaining in itself, just seeing the progress of the painting.
Yes.
I think it's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And that goes back to, the infatuation with Bob Ross. Like, watching the process is so soothing, and just so, it gives you so much food for thought, and it's like soul food, right? You just ponder so many things.
Yep.
And so the people sitting at the tables nearby me, while everyone else is off having fun, they're staring, and they're watching, and they're elbowing their friend at the table, going, look at this, and again, the other vendors and people checking back in on me every hour and seeing the progress, and just being like, wow, I don't know how you do this, and I'm like, I don't know either. I just kind of do.
How do you stay focused? Because I know when I talk to you at these weddings, I feel like I'm distracting you.
No, it's very zen. I welcome the break where I kind of take my eyes away and shake it off a little bit and take a breather. But again, there's no chill in my life, right? I've got 5 kids. Our house is always chaos. Like, weddings is just a different type of chaos. It's well structured.
That's awesome.
And everyone's having fun and having a good time, and it's a really big night for this couple, and this bride has her dress on that she agonized over, and it's just a really good overall vibe. So I get very zen off of it. I know people think, and I get that question a lot actually, how do you stay so focused with all of this going on? I'm like, are you kidding me? I would be hugely bored if there was nothing going on.
Right.
It's very hard to get into the groove without any music or without all of that environment. I don't know. It's really weird.
Do you have a horror story of maybe like a guest at a wedding that's like maybe being too distracting or bothering you?
I'm trying to think. I do not personally have a horror story, but I know a friend of mine who I dragged into the business had somebody come up and paint like graffiti her painting while she was in the restroom.
Oh my.
Oh no. Like intentional graffiti,
and I know,
or was it them trying to help, or like
no,
they were just
like
being an
treating
asshole?
It like a bathroom wall.
Oh my god.
Oh my
And
so one of the guests.
yeah.
Man, don't invite them to your wedding.
Right.
Whoa.
And oh my goodness, she told me, and I was just like, naturally wanted to laugh, because you're like, yeah, I can see that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can see that happening, and I always have a lid on my paints. Mostly for children at events, because I know how kids are, and they're curious, and it keeps the paints from drying up and everything. But you have to leave it alone every once in a while. And yeah, sure enough, she went to use the restroom and came back to a fun surprise.
Oh wow.
So
How'd she handle that?
She scrubbed it off as best she could, because she's going to have to cover up the lines and everything, and just let the mother of the bride know, I think it was.
Because she can't start over at that point in the night.
No,
probably.
you just paint over it.
Yeah.
It's not like a huge problem, but it's definitely a delay, and it's going to slow you down, and it's kind of like, who did this?
The emotional impact would be like, man, You feel
disrespect.
like someone's out to get me in my work. You know, like, come on.
Well, yeah, and that person's still in the crowd. Like, then you're scared to like walk away to go eat or anything. You
And
know,
you're suspicious of the people you're meeting. You're like looking at them like, were you the one?
So yeah, that's definitely the go down in history legendary story with the wedding painter scene that I know of. And shout out to my friend Melanie, because I know she's going to hear this and she's going to be laughing. Didn't mean to put her on the spot, but it's just too good. You know, it's just too good of a thing where you're just like, wow, that's
what a story.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a kid or an adult. Like that's.
They still didn't identify who it was.
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't even know what happened after.
Probably a middle
I was
schooler.
too
It
caught
has
up.
to be.
I don't think
Yeah.
it was one of the kids. Kids
No,
tend to, you know,
Respectfully.
like they would probably have more fear of getting in trouble
True.
Yeah.
than, you know, somebody with a
Probably
few drinks in them would be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but yeah, people, you know, like, I've had times where, like weather type events happened where, one wedding I walked into and I just got drenched in rain. I mean, drenched. I had a minivan at the time and I lifted the hatch to get my stuff out. I dropped my easel into like this big mud puddle and it broke the leg. And then I was just like, oh no. And so I pick it up and I bring the hatch down and it just dumps water all over my head. And so like drowned rat, you know, I got makeup going down my face. I'm just dripping wet. I'm going into a really, really, really nice venue with marble floors and like fancy
Where
people.
was it?
It was over in Sterling Heights. I can't remember if it was Penance Palazzo.
Okay.
But you know, it's just like
One of
really,
those, yeah.
one of those where you don't want to walk in and dripping a ton of rainwater on their floor,
Right,
and people are going to be looking at me because of what I do. They just naturally gravitate towards me, and so I kind of, you know, dried off the best I could and fluffed my hair up a little bit and wiped my eyeliner out from under my eyes and like taped my easel together.
Wow.
Oh boy.
That's probably
The show must go on, right?
Yeah.
You
That's
can't-
probably an interesting learning lesson, right?
It really, yes.
I've been in that situation where I ripped my pants. And I was like,
Oh,
shoot, I don't
yeah.
have backup pants. And I'm this videographer, and you're naturally in front of everybody anyway. So I ran to a local suit shop before, because I was early. Thankfully, I was early, and I switched pants out. But now, before I go to every wedding, I have a backup pair of pants and a backup jacket and a backup shirt.
Smart.
And if I ruin a tie, whatever, no tie rest of the day, I'm not too concerned about that. But the shirt and the coat and the pants is so important.
Yeah, the pants especially. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to be remembered for.
I remember one time Richard was rolling with on a gig with me back when, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever. And we went to, you know, we're changing and I hear a rip. And he comes out of the stall and he had, I guess, gotten working out a little hard. And he got too big for his shirt, and he it was, what was it, like from down to the shoulder, it was like all on his arm, like his bicep split his arm.
Well,
his
if you
arm
didn't
in
have
half.
such huge biceps, right? That's kind of a complimentary
Right.
and
rib.
And he's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Just put your suit on, dude.
That's all you can do.
Cover it up.
Yeah,
No one can see. You know." It's
Yeah, there's no stopping. There's well, yeah, appreciate your wedding vendors because we really go through it to make sure that we're
Yeah.
we're up to par and that we're present in there, and even if we're drenched or even if we're
And now you're bringing two easels to every wedding.
I do. I literally
the
have
backup
two.
one.
Yep, I have
Yep.
two easels in my vehicle. I have like an extra set of brushes in my truck because one time I forgot my brushes and I had to stop at the dollar store and buy like Wet n Wild makeup brushes. And just play it off like this is normal and fine. And it was like this giant canvas. It was a 24 by 36 inch canvas, and the makeup brushes are not accommodating to that whatsoever.
Right.
You know, they're for like eyeballs.
That's a lot of brush
And,
strokes.
like, yeah, it's a lot of brush strokes.
But it ended up being your best one.
Yeah, well, no, the rainy day one was my best work so far.
Isn't that
like,
funny how it
yeah,
works?
yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if it was just the extra pressure or what, but I was like, you know what?
Extra moisture and
Yeah, that might have helped. That might have helped kind of smear things around a little bit better for me. But yeah, it was definitely one of my best works to date.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and so you do have to think of that, like when something goes wrong, that it's not gonna ruin everything, and
Yeah.
that you might actually turn it around and have it be completely awesome. So
Sure.
So yeah, just remember to not get discouraged when things start to go wrong on you.
Right.
Typically, I will show up like an hour early for things because I'm so afraid of like a flat tire
Smart.
or forgetting my paintbrushes and having to find a Michael's or something like that. So yeah, I'm really overzealous quite often about being on time.
Yeah.
So today it kind of freaked me out. I drove down the road and ended up at the wrong address and all the way, all of 15 minutes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is
No worries.
unacceptable. So,
but your husband, I recently had a change of careers.
yes, we took a huge plunge. The pandemic, with the way it hit, kind of put us at a crossroads. Before everything shut down, I was trying to find a building for a studio. And then everything shut down, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll wait on that. And then weddings stopped, and I was kind of like Wile E. Coyote, where he runs off a cliff and his feet are still going, but there's nothing underneath him, because I was in this groove, right, this really fast-paced groove, and then everything stopped, and my feet were still going. And it was actually very stressful for a while there, trying to adapt to kids being home with Zoom and multiple teachers and emails and then the dates bouncing, just so many dates. Like everyone had to cancel. There was probably 50, 60 weddings that just either had to cancel or get bumped. And so, and sometimes there's 3 or 4 dates that they've thrown out there. And so I was actually busier once the pandemic hit, and I told my husband, who is the king of 10-hour Zoom calls with his work, something's got to give. I am juggling a lot here. I was juggling a lot before the kids all came home, and now I have to keep them quiet on their Zoom calls so you can do your Zoom calls, and nothing I need to do is getting done with my business. And either you come on board and we be like a family business, or I'll have to hire somebody, and that's just what it is. And there was he kind of thought about it, and there were some situations at his job where he couldn't argue with me. It was not very work home life balance friendly, and he decided that he would step back and resign from his position and come on full time with me, and now he handles my books and accounting and the kids.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice
So
family.
That's a great husband right there.
Yeah.
he is amazing.
Unreal.
Artists are not easy to live with, period.
Yep.
And then you are married to one who who is like a little wild compared to what probably he was used to growing up. And then I start this business on him, and we've got 5 kids to manage, and he's always been, as much as he could be present, very helpful with putting them to bed, and he's very charismatic and funny, and so the kids just they get along really well. But for him to take this step and be like, I will support you, and we'll make this happen. So,
I think it's a beautiful thing, because 10 years, 15 years from now, he's going to look back, and you guys are going to look back, you were present with your kids.
Yes.
Rather than probably what it was before.
And that has been a major goal with us, is to have like at least one of us, with the kids. And I mean, let's face it, trying to find daycare for 5 or even a last minute sitter for 5 kids is kind of chaotic.
Yep.
And really hard to obtain, so on any consistent basis. So he decided that it was time. His job had served its purpose for the time we needed it to, in terms of, me being able to get off the ground and replace that income. And so now it's his turn to kind of tag team out and be the home support, and I will go out and be the business person.
Yeah, bring home that bread.
Yeah. And, that way he'll have the creative freedom, too, to explore things if he needs to. He's actually really talented in terms of music. He composes songs, and he can sing. He doesn't like to sing as much, but he can really well, annoyingly well. Like however good I am at art, he is good with music.
Do you think we could teach him how to DJ? We're
Pro-
we're hiring DJs. Hey, wedding DJs out there, reach out to Michael's
Probably.
Entertainment.
I've
You.
tried to convince his brother to get into weddings, and he's just like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, it would be
Tell him
super fun.
Have him reach out to me, or I want to talk to your DJ brother,
Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well, who's going to watch the kids if you got them both out on a Saturday?
right. Yeah,
Let's
that's
come on,
well, no, that's my brother-in-law. My husband, he will happily hang back for a while longer
Yeah.
and hone his craft, right? So yeah, he hasn't been involved as much. He was actually a union rep and negotiated contracts constantly. Like he's really good at that too.
Wow.
So he's just one of those creative people, like just talented. Whatever you put your mind to, you're going to be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a fun transition watching him go from salary to stay-at-home dad. Yeah, he's a riot. He bought himself like biker leggings the other day and said, he was like, check it out, I bought myself some leggings, and we're all laughing, but he's just joking.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the other day he denounced coffee and called it slave sludge.
Oh wow.
And he was like, I don't need that anymore. I don't have to be up for anything. And, and I'm just like, oh,
He's really
boy.
embracing his new role.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
He's a riot. Yeah, he's I came home the other day and he's like, I do all this stuff around here. I don't get no help. He laughed, he winks at me. He's
Yeah.
teasing me. He's
Slaving
like,
over the hot stove.
I'm like, okay, I get it, So yeah, the role reversal part has been like a lot of fun for us
cool.
because we're just goofy like that.
But you're also building something together
Exactly.
Yes.
that on a weekly basis is creating value that, like you said, is going to continue to give to your clients 100 years, even long after they're gone and their prodigy is looking at it. I mean, you're doing something for
Yes.
the marketplace that needs to be done, and people love it. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's something it's something very intimate for these couples, and then it's also something very something that can boost my own children in terms of learning kind of a trade type thing in entrepreneurship and what it takes to really dig into running a business and when you should try to run a business versus working 90 hours for someone else. Because you'll be working 90 hours, at least running your own business.
you're working 90 hours either way. Right?
Either way, right, yeah.
If you care about what you're doing, yeah.
Yes. So that's something that gives them an option for exploration once they come of age, in college age, and decide what they want to do with themselves. That
Yeah.
kind of be open-minded to other outlets.
Sure. And taking that point farther, folks out there that maybe consider, they kind of feel like maybe they're wearing the starving artist hat, that they have these creative talents, but they haven't figured out a way to monetize or make a living at it. What advice can you share with those folks out there?
Well, the first thing is not to get too caught up in what you want to do and really learn how to accommodate what other people are asking for. And then just don't get in your own way, because that's a lot of it, is that you stay in your own way and you're afraid, oh, what if I don't do a good job? And oh, I really, I'm really awkward trying to price myself and speak to people about bouncing pricing back and forth and things like that. Like sometimes you got to kind of tuck the skill set in the pocket for a minute and work on those other weak points, because it's something that everyone struggles with, even off the art scene. So don't feel like you're alone in that endeavor, and just don't be afraid to really take a breather and really be honest with yourself about what you want and where you can find a middle place for what you want and what your client wants. So
That's good advice.
yes, definitely stay out of your own way.
Good advice.
Well, it's been terrific hanging out with you. It's so good to, whenever we do weddings together, I feel like we get to hang out a lot because I'm right next to you.
Yeah, we're always chatty.
Yeah. So it's kind of like just picking up where we left off from the last wedding, but
yeah, essentially, and I think we've all missed that as vendors, like the camaraderie that comes along with working weddings and making these couples' dreams come true. That like, it's really a team thing out there, and we really like to work together and enjoy what we do. So it's nice to see you, and it's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be here. I'm super big honored. So
awesome.
Thank you.
What's where can we find your art? How do we book you for people listening and watching?
The best route is to go through my Instagram page or my website, and Instagram is at MI Wedding Painter, all one word, so like short for Michigan. And then my website is just www.miweddingpainter.com. and that'll bring you to my contact page to send in an inquiry form. It's important to stay on that form and everything because I have to corral everyone's inquiries into one place. If I get hit up on Wedding Wire and then Facebook and then Instagram DMs, there's just people all over the place and you'll fall through the cracks. So I want to make sure I get to everybody, albeit sometimes slowly. Just, so there's a queue.
That's
so
awesome.
Stay on the contact form.
Well, Trisha, you're awesome. Before we go, can you show us the other painting?
Absolutely.
Here.
So
that's beautiful.
Kind of hold it up here. These two, this was a proposal, and this family has 5 children in their family, and so far I've painted for all of the ones who have gotten engaged. I call it being art-adopted because I get into this family and they're like, oh, we got to get a hold of Trish. They're going to propose, and then I become part of the setup for the proposal, and it's just like the standard with this family, and I just love them for it.
What venue is this?
This was at a restaurant in Detroit.
Yeah, because this is a proposal moment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I feel terrible. I forget the name, but it starts with B. But yeah, so they had it set up, and yeah. So
it's awesome.
I do this for them.
Look at her. You can see her hand in her mouth.
Like,
and you
this
can
is such great detail.
They're so sweet.
Even like the body language, like her one leg forward and back, and she's like excited but kind of nervous and like, oh my goodness, is this actually happening?
They were very good about setting up the surprise. Every time they do it, all this stuff set up. You have an artist, and like she doesn't know anything about it. Like, this is amazing. You guys are amazing. But yeah, so actually Anthony Samoa with Quick Picks. Usually sets up these proposal situations for me, and Michael Nafso, he actually does newscasting and stuff like that, but he also does videography for these proposals with Anthony. And so, yeah, that's just another team that I work with that is like, oh, get a hold of Trish for this family, and yeah, so that's what we get together and do things like this when we can't go to weddings.
Right. There you go. Always something to do.
Always something. We find a way. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys, Rocky, Richard. Awesome. Thanks, Dan and Grow Studios, for providing this location.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Trisha, you've been amazing. Thanks for tuning in, guys, to the Michigan Wedding Podcast. I'm Seth Michaels. It's been a pleasure and an honor to share these moments in time with you, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next wedding.
Take care.